guys, welcome back to Lipstick and Sass. Today I'm going to do a new kind of video for you. I'm going to do a collection video. I have a couple planned, and this is the first one. I'm going to do a collection of, or show you my collection of palettes, my eyeshadow palette collection. What I've been trying to do lately is I'm trying to make sure that I use everything, and I'm trying to make sure, or at least try to use everything 5 times before the year is over. So I thought, since I was going to go through and I was going to have to, basically put my hands on every palette in my collection and kind of play with everything and see what I could do with it, I thought I would show you what I have. I know probably a couple months ago, I actually laid them all out and I took a picture of them just to kind of see what I had. And so I just thought, well, maybe if I take a little time and go through them, and then I can kind of talk about which ones are my favorites, which brands are my favorites, why I like something, why I don't like something. For the most part, I keep things I like and I get rid of things that I don't like. So there may be some things in here that I eventually kind of trade off or hand off to somebody else. But for now, this is the collection I have. Unfortunately, I think there's kind of a theme. There are certain color palettes or color schemes that I really enjoy a little bit more than others. So hopefully you guys have a nice time watching this, and hopefully I can do this kind of quickly because I really do have a lot of palettes. Now, I don't have a ton of palettes compared to some people or some videos I've seen, but I do have a lot. And for a person who only has 2 eyes, and I am the only girl in the house, so it's not like someone else is using these too. So, but you know what? It's fun. That's what I want to spend my money on. That's what I want to spend my money on. I guess it's better than spending my money on drugs, right? Or maybe this is a drug. I don't know. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with the palettes that I actually have already used for 5 times, or at least I know that I've used 5 times. And then that way I can just kind of slide them into this drawer, because this is, I think this is where I'm going to start keeping my eyeshadow palettes, in this wooden shelving unit, just because currently they're under my sink, and I'm so afraid that there's going to be a leak or something's going to happen and it's going to ruin my eyeshadow. So I think I'm just going to keep it in this, I don't even know what this is, but this is what I'm going to keep them in. So let's just get started. No need to talk. So we'll go with the little ones first. So the first 2 palettes I have are 2 Natasha Denona mini palettes. And this is the mini Lila palette, and this is the mini Sunset palette. And mini Lila is basically purples. I'll probably do a little bit of swatching, maybe not everything, but, and then the mini Sunset palette is obviously a sunset palette. So it's got the, some gold, some maroons, just a very, very pretty palette. Actually, we'll do this. So this is a color from mini Sunset, and I really like the Natasha Denona palettes. They're creamy. The formula is very creamy, and it's a very nice palette. And then this one, obviously, I like because it's got purples in it. And I love a good purple. Oops, I can't hold my hand right, apparently. So that came from the Lila palette. All right, so those are my first 2 minis. We'll put them in here. Okay, so my next mini is the Urban Decay Aphrodisiac palette. And this one is also kind of browns and burgundies. So that's the shade from there. I really like this palette. The only thing is I wish it had a tiny bit more, maybe browns or something. Although, no, this palette is actually pretty good by itself, so you could use this for one complete look. You could probably get 2 or 3 different kinds of looks out of this palette. 3 mattes and 3 shimmery colors. So I really like this. Urban Decay is one of my favorite brands. There's really only one Urban Decay palette that I own that I don't really use too much, and when I get to that I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. But again, this is the Urban Decay Aphrodisiac palette, and it's really pretty. And I like mini palettes, not quite as much as I like many other kinds of products, but mini palettes are always a nice thing to play with. So hold on just a second, so sorry. All right, so the next thing I have is the mini Urban Decay. It's a mini honey palette, and it's got a cute little bee right here. And then it is varying shades of honeys. So this one only has 2 matte colors, and this is the one that I have a little bit more trouble kind of making a complete look with, because for transition colors, I don't necessarily care for the color Sticks, which is the honey transition color, and then the other one is just very pale. I don't know. This is really good to go with the main honey palette, but this one, again, it's a good formulation. It's just, for me, it's a little bit difficult to work with just on its own. But that leads me to the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, which is the full-size palette. And this is the one, you know, obviously that it came out first. Oops, came out first. And obviously it's varying shades of honey. And this one is really, really pretty. And the thing I like about this one is, you know, it's got, towards this end, it's got all of the paler honey colors, but then it still has the deeper honey, you know, amber colors, the nice pretty browns. It's still a really good palette. And between this palette and that mini palette, that can create a lot of really pretty looks. So this is a really nice palette. So if you like neutrals or, you know, kind of a calmer look, it's really good for that. So the next one is the original Urban Decay Naked palette. So this is the very first kind of iconic palette that Urban Decay ever did. And again, this is kind of obviously my style. It's got a lot of the pretty neutrals. Pretty browns, pretty taupes, really nice blacks, a little shimmery. And then this is the color Toasted, and it's kind of just a regular, you know, shimmery brown color. It's kind of hard to show swatches. But again, this is the original Urban Decay Naked palette. Really good go-to palette, really good just for a simple eye if you want to just do like a really simple wash of color and then eyeliner and a deep lip or something. That would be great for this. So the next palette I have is the Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. And this one for sure is right up my alley. So this is the pretty varying shades of cherry. So very, very dark to very, very light. I know that I have seen some funky looking cherry colors, and I have seen some cherries that are actually these weird pinky colors. So here's the color Privacy, excuse me, and the color Bing. So Privacy and Bing. So if you look at those, very pretty pink colors. And when I do these swatches, you know they're going to get all over everywhere. So, oh well. But this is really, really nice. If you like kind of a neutral pinky toned shadow or set of shadows, this one's really, really, really nice. Looks like I'm going to just go all the way Urban Decay. Okay, so the next palette I have is the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet. So this one is a little bit weird. It's a purple palette, but it's also a peachy palette. And I love a good purple palette. And I'm still a little iffy on some of these shades. Like the first shade is fine, but it's like the 3 in the middle, Mind Slip, Dazed, and Hacked. So these 3 right here are a little weird. And then I haven't messed with Lucid yet, which is this one here. But it's kind of a top coat not multi-chrome, but it's a little prismatic. I don't know how to describe it, but if you kind of disregard those colors and just look at the last few colors, those are really, really pretty. Just varying shades of purple. And I really, really like this. Like, this is the color Euphoric. You can see that very well. But yeah, you can't see that very well. But it's a really pretty purple color. Alright, so that is Ultraviolet. Now, this palette apparently was a palette that I really, really liked because before I started keeping track, I had already used this palette like 8 times. So, this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. And I think this is one of those palettes that I actually had to work really, really hard to find. It's either this one or there's another one. But you gotta see this. Look at this. So this is called Soft Glam, and it's pretty obvious why this is called Soft Glam, because you can make the most smoked out look with this, or you can make something that's very soft and gentle. But it's got a really pretty mulberry. It's literally called mulberry, and a really pretty rose pink. Now, Anastasia Beverly Hills are, these palettes are my other all-time favorite. So if you can see, whoops, the mulberry, and then the soft pink. That's not soft pink. Rose pink, sorry. But my 2 favorite brands, again, are Urban Decay and Anastasia Beverly Hills. So if you see a lot of Anastasia and a lot of Urban Decay, there's a reason for that. So this is the Soft Glam palette, and this is the palette that I just had to completely put away because I just kept using it. So there's that one. And then this is actually one of my 2 favorite palettes. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. And oops. This is the color scheme. So it is basically pinky, burgundy, mauves, and taupes and browns, I guess. So I'm really, really weird, and my favorite color in this palette is not a burgundy. It's not one of the intense colors. It's this color called Buon Fresco, and it's basically just like a taupe color. It's like, honestly, kind of boring, but it's my favorite color in the entire palette, and it's just so pretty. I don't know if you can see that very well. Probably not. There you go. But it's just a basic taupe color. But I really, really like it. So it's really good, like if you want to do a really simple, I think I've already mentioned this, you do a wash of color and then you do like an intense eyeliner or something like that, and then you do your lip. That's the look I do. But I really like that color. There's another one in there, I think it's called Rustic Bronze or something like that, that's really pretty together. But I think, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a little bit of a theme. I really like pinkies and burgundies and mauve, and you know, that color scheme is really, really, really good for me. Okay, so the next palette I have, this is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Bling Boss palette. Jaclyn Hill has had 2 separate big palettes that she's done with Morphe, and then after she did the first one, she actually released 4 mini palettes that were kind of leftover colors that she didn't put in the first palette. And this one is the only one that I actually was interested in. And again, this is called Bling Boss, and this palette is kind of a purpley pinky palette. And this color right here, it's called Hush Hush, is very similar to that Buon Fresco I was just showing you. And again, it's a very simple kind of taupey mauve color, and it's my favorite in the palette, which again is kind of weird, but that's what it is. And this is the color Berry Treasure, and it kind of looks like it's a black color, but it's like a black with a purple. It's basically like a deep purple. You can see that. Very, very pretty. So that's the Jaclyn Hill. And I may have to stop swatching because my fingers are already disgusting. Nice. All right. So the last palette that I have hit my 5 usage requirement on is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. And this palette, for whatever reason, I don't know why, is sometimes difficult for me to use, but then once I get a hold of it, it's very, very pretty. Now, I do not typically like greens or blues, and I don't really like orange. I always say I only like green and orange where God put it, and God did not put green or orange on my eyes. However, very occasionally I will use this palette for the greens and oranges. Usually though, I just use it for the browns and the pinks and the magentas. But it's got a really pretty black, it's got a lot of good browns. It's a very, very pretty palette, and when I'm feeling brave, I will use it for other things. But yeah, this one needs to definitely get used a lot more. Okay, so that's all the palettes that have hit the requirement. I have quite a few other palettes that are very close to it, but everything else is just kind of going to be willy-nilly and whatever I grab. So the next palette I want to show you is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina collection. It's a mini palette. It's the Mini Pro Pigment Palette Volume 1. And I just got this the other day for, actually, I think it was half off. And this has a lot of pretty pinks and purples in it. It also has a really nice couple of shimmers right here in the middle that would be really, really pretty for eye toppers. So one's kind of a pinky color and one's kind of a champagne color. And then it's got these two kind of orangey colors on the side, which may or may not ever get touched, but they're very, very pretty. And then this color here is kind of shimmery as well. But again, I don't know if you've sensed the theme yet, but there is a theme. All right, so this one is the Pat McGrath Labs Ecstasy Sublime eyeshadow palette. And I've always wanted to try Pat McGrath's eyeshadows, but they're kind of expensive. So I thought I would get this 5-pan mini. And the reason I got this 5-pan mini is because it's very neutral. And so even though they are all matte colors, you could either do just a wash all over the eyelid, or if you wanted to supplement and use a couple different palettes at once, these would be really pretty. So these are all pretty much brown nude neutral colors, except for this, and this is kind of a red coppery color. But this is a really, 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 really nice one. Okay. All right, and I think that might be the last of like my smaller palettes, so I'll move on to some other ones. Let's do these next. So these next 3 palettes are all from the brand Juvia's Place. So they look like this. So this one is Nubian 3 Coral. This one is the Warrior. And this one is the Masquerade Mini. So I'll show you the Masquerade Mini. And this one has a lot of really pretty bright colors as well. So like this row here, this bottom, well, top row, is basically greens and blues, and it's very unlikely that I will use that terribly often, but everything under that is stuff that I will definitely put my fingers in at some point or another if I haven't already. So this is really pretty. And then this one is, again, the Nubian 3 Coral. And this one is all basically grays and coral colors. And this one is a little bit difficult for me to use just because sometimes the colors don't seem to go together properly for me, the way I like colors to go. But I have to play with this a little bit more and see what I can do with it, because I really wanted it, and then when I got it, I don't know if I'm scared of it or what, but I think it's a little more cool toned, and so I think it's harder for me to use sometimes. But then this one is the Warrior, and this is the one that I really have trouble using, which when you see it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense that this would be so difficult to use. But I think the difficult thing is that there's 6 shimmer colors and only 3 matte colors, and I feel like maybe I need more matte in order to use it, because this is a matte color, and then this one, and then this one is matte. And this color right here doesn't really work for me. I mean, it works for me. It's just not exactly what I want in order to get going, really. And then the rest are shimmer. So again, unless all you want to do is that all over color, but when you mix this with the other 2 palettes, this is actually a really good palette too. But this honestly is a palette that I'm kind of thinking about passing on. Even though it's very pretty, for some reason I can't quite get around it. But we'll see about that one. Ow. This palette is the Lorac Pro, I think it's the Pro 4. Lorac Pro eyeshadow palette number 4. And this one is newer to me and I love it. It is my color story. There's one black right here, so that's a good black. But then everything else is that really pale, kind of a neutral, a lot of browns, a little bit of taupe, just some pink. There's basically half shimmer, half matte. It's just a really, really, really pretty palette. And I think that if it came down to it, I could use this every day very, very gladly. And I don't know why it took me so long to try Lorac, but these are really, really pretty. Now, this is the Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. And this one is kind of interesting because, one, it's by Tati, which I love Tati. Unfortunately, she kind of is missing in action right now, but that's neither here nor there, at least not for right now. But this is her very first palette, and this is beautiful. And it's basically 6 colors, but it's basically matte, shimmer, sparkle, and glitter. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be called, but it's 6 different colors, but then it's like also 4 different textures of each one of those colors. And so you can really create some really, really pretty looks with this. And I honestly have not used it nearly as often as I thought I would, but again, it's because I have so many other things. But this is really, really pretty, and I really hope that she is able to kind of get things together and she can do more, because her stuff is so pretty, and it just would have been very interesting to see where she went with it. But again, this is the Tati Beauty, and here's, I don't know if you can see, I gotta put these in a different spot. But this is one of the really glittery shades, and it's just a very pretty palette. Okay, now this is my favorite palette for packaging. This is the best packaging of any of the palettes I have, and I literally purchased the entire collection based solely on the packaging. This is the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess color palette, so it's the eyeshadow palette. Look at this packaging. This is Medusa. And if you look at it, the snakes actually have red eyes, and it's just so beautiful. And this collection actually came with a highlighting palette as well that is white. This part is white, and then with the gold Medusa, and then some lip products as well. But this is the Medusa palette. Sorry, it's the Greek Goddess palette, and it is basically a neutral palette with a pop of blue, and all of the shade names are goddesses. So we have Hestia and Aphrodite and Iris and Clio and Athena, Persephone, Calliope. It's so pretty, and every time I use it, I'm just like, why don't I use this all the time? And then I remember why I don't use it all the time, because I have tons of other ones. But this is my first Lunar Beauty purchase, and I am obsessed with it. And the highlighting palette is so good too. Very smooth and creamy. It's so good. But this is my eyeshadow collection, so that's why I'm not showing you that one as well. But it's, oh, so good. Okay, so the next 2 palettes are Natasha Denona palettes, And this one is the Love palette, and this one is the Sunrise palette. So the Love palette is basically Valentine-y. So it's basically Valentine's Day in a palette. And this is pinks and purples with a silver and maybe one kind of a creamy color as a transition shade. But this is another one that I really need to play with a lot more. It's so pretty. But again, with the theme, I like my pinks and my reds and, you know, things like that. So that is Natasha Denona Love, and then this is Natasha Denona Sunrise. And this one is pinks and oranges and yellows and just, oh, so pretty. Oh, so pretty. I get so excited to use it, and then I'm like, oh, but wait, there's this one, and I want to use this one instead. But, okay, and then I think that's the only thing in this bucket. All right, so this one is, this one's a little controversial. So this one is the Jeffree Star JSC, Jeffree Star Cosmetics Blood Sugar palette. And this palette, I waited to buy. I saw it as soon as it came out. I was super obsessed with it, but it's a little bit on the more expensive side. And I kept waiting because I just couldn't drop the money. I finally bought it, and then he's just very controversial, and I'm not willing to buy any more of his products. But I spent a lot of money on this, so I am not going to get rid of it. I am going to use it. But again, it's in, you know, my perfect color scheme. And it's got a really cool case. It's basically kind of like a suitcase situation. The only thing is it's very bulky, and so that's kind of annoying, kind of hard to store. But it's a cool, you know, it's got these cute little clips on it. You pop it open. It's got a nice mirror. But I'm just never ever gonna buy anything else of his again. But the one thing I did buy, I am going to use it because, like I said, it was very expensive. So while I don't support his brand in general, I can't justify just ditching a good palette. So there's that. Okay, let's see if I can kind of do this quickly, which you know full well I can't. All right, so the next palette, this is my other favorite palette. This is the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette, and it's basically the rose gold palette. And it looks like this on the outside, and then on the inside, it's basically rose gold. So it's all the pinks, neutrals, mauves, however you say that word. But this is my other favorite palette. And this palette, every time I use this palette, I love the look that I get from this palette. So there's that. This palette here is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. And this one sometimes is a little harder for me to use because it does tend to run obviously a little more orange. But again, every time I use it, I really like this one as well. So this is the Naked Heat. And the one cool thing that I've been able to do with most of my Urban Decay palettes is I buy them from Ulta, and because of Ulta's really great rewards program, I usually end up getting my Urban Decay palettes for super cheap because I save up my rewards. I know that when I bought the Cherry palette, I got it for like $2, which is ridiculous, but it was so cool. All right, so here is the next palette. This is the Carly Bible, Anastasia Beverly Hills Carly Bible collaboration. And this one is also very pretty, but also this one's kind of hard for me to use too, just because it's a very interesting color story. And a lot of the matte colors, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work the way I expect it to. However, I don't know that I've even ever tried this color here. It's a really pretty maroon magenta color. But I really need to try this one a little bit more, obviously within the 5 usage rule. But I'm kind of curious to see what I can do with that one. So This is the Anastasia and Alyssa Edwards collaboration. And this one, I don't know if I have even used yet, but I'm sure you can see why I may not have used it yet. This is so bright. And usually when I am doing my eyeshadow, I'm about to go to my day job, which is the clerk's office, which honestly, I have decided that if I want to do eyeshadow, I don't really care what color eyeshadow it is. I don't care if it's day or nighttime. If I want to wear a certain color, I'm going to wear a certain color. But some of these colors would be very difficult to just kind of throw on the eye and hope for the best. So I think I'm waiting to use this one until I have a chance to really sit down and think about it and focus on it. So that's why that one hasn't really been used too much. This next palette is the Urban Decay Backtalk palette. Now this one I'm a little disappointed in, and honestly this palette I'm considering not keeping, because you would think that this would be right up my alley and it would be perfect for me, but I just cannot get into this palette. And it's this really pretty pinks and it's a great palette. I just cannot get into it. And it actually has a mirror that comes out because it's more like a full face palette, because it also has highlighters and blushes in it. And I just don't ever use it. So this one may also be heading out, but we'll have to see about that. So this next palette, this is the Urban Decay palette. This is like the one palette that I just cannot for the life of me seem to really get a grip on. And I think it is because it is literally a palette full of glitter, and that is it. Now, the thing is, if you look at this end of it, you would think I would be all over that because it's neutral, it's easy. And then you open it up and you see the other end of it, and that is purples and blues and weird, and there's the mirror and everything else in my room. We're gonna stop doing that. I don't know how to show that to you. Oh, here we go. There we go. But it's like green and 2 or 3 greens and black. I don't know. I don't really care for it. I don't really like this end quite as much as I like the other end. So I really need to focus on trying to use this, because otherwise it's just sitting there and that's wasteful. Plus it's a really weird layout. So I don't know. We'll see. But I like to keep it because I like the idea of all the glitter, but if I don't use it, what's the point? So there's that one. So it looks like I have 3 really big palettes. So I have these 3 Morphe palettes, and I'll show you. It's kind of hard to lay these out. All right, so the first one is the 35G Bronze Goals palette. And this is a really good summer palette. And it's really neutral, it's really great. And obviously, it's pretty perfect for somebody who likes neutral colors. So it's got all these neutrals in it, and then on the bottom corner it's got a black. It's got a black, and then it's got kind of a shimmery black, but this is pretty much a perfect palette. And again, this is one I don't use so much just because I have so many others that I always kind of forget about it. But this one I really, really like too. So I gotta work on using stuff. Okay, so the next one is the Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is the volume 1. And the back has a picture of all of the colors, and it's got all the names on it. But this is the Jaclyn Hill volume 1, like I said. And this is the one that kind of got her started with all of her eyeshadow palettes. But look at that. This one's pretty much perfect. The only thing is I don't really care for like these bottom corner here, just because again, I don't really like blues and greens and things like that. But this one is really, really pretty. And this is the kind of palette that you could pretty much use it exclusively every day and always have a really good look and never get bored, never run out. This is the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. And it is a little better for me, only because it does not have the greens and the blues in it, but it does have a lot of, like right here in the middle, it has a lot of really weird orangey, like fluorescent neon colors, and I don't really care for that. But it does have a lot of the other really pretty, like the pinkies, purples, all the magentas and everything down at the bottom that I really like. So it's kind of like if you use from here and then from here, you're good. But then everything else, at least for me, is just kind of weird. But between the two of them, it's a really, really good collection. And then if you add Bling Boss to it, which is that other one I mentioned, really, really pretty. Let's see, hold on a second. Rearrange some things so I can easier. This is what I have left, this whole basket. All right, so the next one is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. So the Riviera palette and the Alyssa Edwards palette I actually managed to find at TJ Maxx and or Marshall's, and I found them basically right before the pandemic and right after, you know, we were able to go shopping again. And so the Riviera palette, very, very pretty. It's intended to be kind of summery. So if you look, there's some really pretty pops of purple and pink. This is a good one that would mix, like if you had a really, really good neutral palette, and then you could mix it with this, and then you'd pretty much be able to do whatever. And this one's really pretty too. So that's the Riviera palette. Get the other bigger palettes out of the way. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina collection. So Norvina is the daughter of the owner of Anastasia, and she has her own collection. There are 4 total of the big palettes, and this is the only one I currently have based on the color scheme. There's one more that I do want to get based on that color scheme, but the other 2 are more orangey and green, and I do not like them. So this is the volume 1, and this is pretty much my perfect purple palette, other than a couple of these really odd, like hot pinks and hot orange colors that I don't really care for. But this is a really, really, really nice palette that I honestly need to spend more time with. So there's one big palette. And then this is the last bigger palette that I have, and this is the Morphe 25B palette. And I like this palette because this is a really, really, really good neutral palette, and you can pretty much do whatever you need to, and it's great for transitions, it's great for a neutral eye, it's great for kind of a smoky eye, it's great for anything darker. Looks like, yeah. So if you look here, the top 2 rows are matte, the bottom 2 rows are matte, and then everything in the middle is shimmery. And again, this is really, really great. This is great to mix pretty much anything else with. So if you use this for your base and then you use pretty much anything else for color, you're all set. So there's that. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina collaboration. Now this is one, if you like dark shadows, this is good. So this is the Jackie Aina. Now, unfortunately, Jackie Aina and Carly Bible, their palettes came out really, really close together. So the Jackie Aina palette didn't get as much of a chance to shine as probably it should have. But it's very pretty. And this is one that if you don't really know what to do with it, you kind of can do it in quadrants. So the first 4 colors, the next 4 colors, the next 4. It's really cool how they're laid out so that you can kind of do whatever you want to. But if you really don't know how to do anything with that, you just kind of go, you know, 4 at a time. So these 4 would work together, these 4. It's just really pretty. And then I'll show you. This is the color Wiggley's and the color Supreme. Put this down. So let's see. Why can't I do this? Wiggley's, and then the color Supreme. So it's like a pinky color, and then that one's like a coppery, I don't know how to describe it, but it's really pretty. And now I can't see it either. I don't know. People who do swatch videos a lot, it's very impressive. All right, so this is the Urban Decay Naked 2 palette. I think this is the one, yep, this is the one that my mirror always falls out, so I gotta be super careful with this one. And the very cool thing about pretty much all of my Urban Decay and all of my Anastasia is they come with double-ended eyeshadow brushes, but I never use them. And I don't know why. I think it's because I like to maintain the integrity of the palette, so I want to leave them nice and pristine. But I mean, if I did use them, then that would pretty much double my brush collection. But I also don't really like double-ended brushes, so that's probably why. Okay, so this is the Naked 2. So again, this is just a very easy, simple one. It'd be great for smoky eye. It's got a really, really dark black on one end, and then obviously it, you know, gets darker, lighter to darker. Nice amount of shimmers, very neutral. If you are a neutral girl, this is a great palette. Okay, the next one is the Anastasia Amrezy palette. And this one is actually a little bit different because it's a little bit bigger. Amrezy is actually close friends with Norvina, the daughter, so that's probably why she's got a bigger palette. But let me show you this. So it's basically Barbie pink and sparkly, which, there you go, now you can see it, which is just fun in itself. And then on top of that, it's got really, really great neutral colors, but then it's got really great pops of color as well. So this is basically a pink palette with a pop of blue. So this one's really nice too, and it's also got a good black. It's got a lot of good browns. It's really pretty, and I need to obviously use that one way more too. Okay, we only have 2, 4, 5 palettes left, so let's just finish out with the Naked palettes. This is the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette, and this is perfect for a smoky eye. So it's got, this one actually goes the opposite direction where, well, no, it's got light, light, and dark in the middle. Usually it goes light to dark, left to right, but this one actually is kind of different. So it's got some pale colors on one end, pale colors on the other end, and then the dark, dark, dark colors in the middle. So it's got a good black, and then it's got some really good grays and some browns. It's really nice. So if you like a smoky eye, there you go. And then the last Urban Decay palette, this is the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. So basically what they did is they had a funeral for their Naked palette, and then they came out with the Naked Reloaded. And this is just a really pretty outside, but then it's another neutral palette. And this is one that does not have brush in it, but it's a really, it's a really pretty neutral palette with a pop of, well, if I can, there we go, a coral pop in it. So that's really nice. And it's also got this really kind of smooth outside to it. I don't know. Oh, I think that's maybe a orchid. But again, this is the Naked Reloaded. So they literally had a funeral for the Naked palette, and then they came out with this. So very fun. All right. So now I have 3 palettes left. These are all Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. This first one is Norvina, and this is still under the Anastasia umbrella. This is not under the Norvina umbrella, but this is a really pretty purple-ish. Now that I look at it, it seems like it might have more pinky to it, but it's a pinky purpley palette. So, well, let's see if I can do this. The other thing is I always try to keep the protecting plastic inside of them. So if you see this is really pretty. So it's got a couple really pretty pinks and then a really nice purple. So let's see if I can do this. So we have Wild Child, Rose Pink, and I think Soul. So we've got pink, pink, and a purple. These are really pretty. So that's Norvina. And this is probably my other, I guess my third favorite. Now, we're gonna do Sultry. Ooh, no, I think Sultry is the one that I looked all over creation for and finally found. So, just based on the outside, you know full well I'm gonna buy this. So this is the Sultry palette. And then when you open it up, this one is basically a neutral palette, but it's great for like a really pumped up glam, just really amazing look. So it's basically pinks, or no, I'm sorry, it's basically browns and grays with, again, a really good black with that pop of corally pink. And this is just so pretty. So Bloom is the pink color and Slate is a good gray that's in here. So do this. So pink, or I'm sorry, it's the Bloom, and then this is Slate. So if you can see those, pink and Slate. It's not called pink. Why do I keep calling it pink? It's not called pink. It's called Bloom. All right. So this is the very last palette that I have. And if I have any other palettes anywhere, I don't know it. And that's probably a good thing. But this is, again, an Anastasia palette. And this is the Subculture palette. Now the Subculture palette is kind of, I don't want to say controversial, but when it came out, nobody seemed to like it. And it's honestly, it is not my color scheme in the least. But I ended up getting it at TJ Maxx or Marshall's for very, very cheap. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it anyway, even though nobody else seems to like it. And it's really not my color scheme. But you know what, I kind of want it anyway. And I kind of want to, you know, do my collection or whatever. So this is the Subculture palette. And when I saw videos on it, I was like, ugh, that is not acceptable. But then I bought it and I used it and I really, really liked it. So I kind of was going out of my comfort zone with this. Especially because if you look at it, this is not even remotely my color scheme. It's got teal and green and orangey colors, and it's just kind of icky. But when you actually use it, it's so pretty. And it actually allowed me to kind of be brave and kind of do some things that I normally would not do. But it's got electric. So this is electric. So it's a really nice kind of a shimmery color. And then Untamed, which is a greeny gray. And then Axis, which is kind of a teal, but obviously the way it swatches is not going to be the way it shows up properly. And Destiny, it's like a khaki color. But again, this is not my typical, oh, you can't even see it. All right. So these two colors, and then this shimmer, and then this color, which you can't even see, but it's like 3 greens and a shimmery gold with a green cast to it. All right, so at this point, my fingers are pretty much disgusting. My arm is covered in eyeshadow, which normally is just the backs of my hands, but whatever. And that is actually my eyeshadow collection. So hopefully you kind of enjoyed looking at this. Hopefully it kind of gave you some ideas of some things that you really like, some things to look for. Ask me questions in the comments below if you want. Some of these were limited edition. Some of them you can't really get anymore. But the ones that you can get, I can definitely kind of recommend or kind of point you in a different direction or make suggestions or whatever based on what I like. And then we can have a conversation about what you like and maybe we can figure out, you know, a good pick for you. But I definitely recommend that if you really like something, don't be afraid to use it. Don't hold it for a rainy day. Use it. If you like it, use it. Don't save it. I mean, that's the whole point of having all this pretty makeup and all this fun stuff is to use it. So go ahead and just have fun with it. It's eyeshadow, it's fun, and guess what? It washes off. So I'm gonna wrap this up. It's gonna be a long one like it always is, but there you go. So just some reminders, things I always say because, you know, I can't help myself. First of all, please make sure you wear your mask if you're supposed to. Be kind of other people, considerate to other people, and remember, just because you don't have it doesn't mean somebody else doesn't have it, and just because you don't think you have it doesn't mean you don't have it. So let's not spread it. Second thing, and this is super important, and you know what I'm about to say, but please make sure to vote. We are coming up on the end of time. No, not the end of time. We're coming up on the end of the campaign trail. We only have about, what, 2.5, 3 weeks left? So make sure you vote. If you do not want to go to the polls, make sure you get your absentee ballot. It is safe, it is legal, it is fine. Do it. Other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, be semi-nice to each other. You know, don't go overboard with it. And remember, it's fall, so it's time to break out your dark lipstick, unless you're like me and you wear it all the time anyway. Your dark lipstick, your dark colors, and your fluffy, cozy sweaters. So with that, I will see you guys soon, and I hope you had a good time. Bye.